Well, good morning, everybody. This is a lovely gathering, and great to see all of you. Great joy. Welcome. And so this weekend is dedicated to Lojong mind training this morning, and then an exploration of the dedication, aspiration, the preliminary liberating instructions, which I keep getting asked questions over and over and over again. What does it mean? And it's quite long, and it's quite detailed, and it needs to get kind of unpacked. So if you're a pure faith type, you don't even need to hear anything. But if you to say it over and over again and not understand it, I don't think that's really a very wise thing to do. So there'll be 3 classes, and of course because the dedication aspiration is so vast that Newton Dorje wrote, will be covering the whole of Dharma. So it's an entire deep, profound Dharma exposition just in those 2 pages. So Michael, if you would lead us in the outline, the Yangzab outline of the preliminary liberating instructions up to through the Guru Yoga, that'd be great. So first of all, going for refuge. Shiva Chandra Damshu Lakapchi, Soki Shunto Gendun Lakapchi, Triple Naga Chokyo Lakapchi. From now to attain the unsurpassed awakening, and our sentient beings equal space. Go for refuge to the Guru, source of all blessings. Go for refuge to the deities, bestower of supreme city. Go for refuge to the bikinis, dispel all obstacles. We go for refuge to the Buddha, the first known humans. We go for refuge to the Lama, Dharma, peaceful and free from attachment. We go for refuge to the Sangha, supreme field of accumulation. We go for refuge to Dharma-Teachings, masters of activity. From now to attain of unsurpassed awakening, I and other sentient beings equal space. Go for refuge to the Guru, source of all blessings. Go for refuge to the deities, bestower of supreme city. Go for refuge to the bikinis, dispel all obstacles. We go for refuge to the Buddha, the first among humans. We go for refuge to the Lama, Dharma, peaceful and free from attachment. We go for refuge to the Sangha, supreme field of accumulation. We go for refuge to our Dharma-Teachings, masters of activity. So allowing the entire refuge field of all the sources of blessings and refuge dissolve inseparably into our body, speech, and mind. And then generating relative and ultimate bodhicitta. Dewa Chola Gompa Nilaga Kunla Tanyo Nyampe Samchodi Jamchu Ningbo Tochu Dagi Dagi Drodu Samchen Kundo Shi Sangye Gopal Setru Topaja Deshtu Rosso Dorje Ningbo Lam Lame Chudli Rabbe Sompargi. May all sentient beings be free from suffering, be joyful and truly abide supreme happiness. I pray that the supreme mind partial to all to attain the heart of awakening. In order that we may fully benefit the beings that surround us, we must attain the stage of Buddhahood in this very lifetime. Therefore, we will diligent in this unsurpassed teaching, the path of luminously clear objectlessness. May all sentient beings be free from suffering, be joyful and truly abide in supreme happiness. I generate the supreme mind impartial towards all in order to attain the heart of awakening. In order that we fully benefit the beings six realms, we must attain the stage of Buddhahood in this very lifetime. Therefore, be very diligent with this unsurpassed teaching, the path of luminously clear Vajra essence. And then spontaneously arising as a Vajrasattva for the benefit of self and all sentient beings. Vajrasattva sammaya manupalaya Vajrasattva tvenopa tishtadrito me bhava Sutokayo me bhava Sutokayo me bhava Anurakto me bhava Sarva siddhi me prayasa Sarva karma sucha me Jitsam shriyam kuruhum Ha 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 ho Bhagavan Sarva tathagata Bendra mame muncha Bendra bhava Maha samyasa Satta sammaya manupalaya Vendra satta tvenopa Tishtadrito me bhava Sutokayo me bhava Sutokayo me bhava Anurakto me bhava Sarva siddhi me prayacha Sarva karma sucha me Tisam sriyam kuruhum Ha 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 ho Bhagavan Sarva tathagata Bendra mame mutsa Bendra bhava Maha samaya sattva Bendra satta sammaya manupalaya Bendra satta tvenopa Tishtadrito me bhava Sutokayo me bhava Sutokayo me bhava Anurakto me bhava Sarva siddhi me prayacha Sarva karma sucha me Titsam sriyam kuruhum Ha 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 ho Bhagavan Sarva tathagata Bendra mame mutsa Bendra bhava Maha samaya sattva. And offering a supreme mandala, all the sources of refuge, and especially as Vajrasattva, bringing all sentient beings to be reborn or to dwell in a pure realm, in a place where the Buddha's teaching is taught and people realize very quickly. Scented water, range of flowers, adorned with sword, four continents, the sun and moon. By offering this blessed Buddha field, may all migrating beings take birth in a pure Buddhahood. Mandala Praticya Swaha. And now the Guru Yoga accumulation. one's own original pure awareness, the palace of unceasing radiance, is one's own vibrant energy, the root guru, whom I supplicate with devoted mind, bless me to accomplish the rainbow body. Feel that one's own original pure awareness, the palace of unceasing radiance, is one's own vibrant energy, the root guru, whom I supplicate with devoted mind, bless me to accomplish the rainbow body. Excellent. So I was requested to give a reading transmission of the 59 aphorisms, or the mind training, Lojong, which is a central body of practice and study to all the schools of Mahayana, Vajrayana teaching. So if one is going to pick an essential part of your curriculum, something that's really important traditionally to spend time with, a lot of time with, this is one that is considered standard by every single, pretty much every single Tibetan practitioner. So even those that spend years and years in generation completion stage practices and Mahamudra Dzogchen likely have practiced this mind training and the Tonglen, the giving and taking, for considerable periods of time. It's very high, and it's also considered to be one of the great foundations. I was very fortunate to receive this, I think, three times, well, actually 4 or 5 times, but once from the Dalai Lama in a teaching he gave before the Kala Chakra in India, actually up in Ladakh. Next time was with Namgyal Rinpoche, giving I think a week's teaching on this practice. And then the third time from Drikung Alta Rinpoche. So he'll be giving this again, I believe, in Toronto as well. So it's really essential practice. This practice really is at the heart of all generation completion stage practices. It's the heart of all Guru Yoga. It's at the heart of all the practice of relative and eventually absolute bodhicitta. And it's, as I just say, it's really worth taking time to do a retreats on this. It really is. And you will see, eventually, you'll see that the generation completion stage practice, sadhana practice that you do of Chenrezig and so on, are actually all contained in here. And once you get the hang of it, then it becomes the natural part of what you do with all these practices. So I was asked to give a reading transmission so that those who are practicing it, there's certainly a few that are practicing, have never received the unbroken reading transmission since it was first crafted. It comes all the way from Tisha, a great great Indian master. So this is also a reading transmission which gives permission and authorization to delve into that. There's all kinds of texts out there, lots and lots and lots of beautiful texts have been written, wonderful commentaries, including taped and video, I'm sure videotaped recording or recorded teachings. So I'll read through this, and because of the time limitation, I'm going to allow this morning for these 2 texts, and that's it. And for those who've received teaching on it, great. I'm sure we'll come back to this text many times again, but then you have the if you've never received it before, the authorization to dive into this extraordinary practice. The 59 aphorisms of mind training, 7 roots of training the mind, the root text. So I think you all have a copy of this. I'm also adding to this, so there'll be a further addition at some point. This is taking two different texts, translations from two different texts, and combining them or adding them together. There's a third or fourth text I'm going to do as well. So I'm going to pause for a second, always warn you in a good way that translations are translations that can't completely capture some of the flavors of the original Tibet. But they can come really close. It doesn't mean we don't practice. It's really important to try to get a number of translations. And I don't mean this in a negative way, actually, just realistically. Every translator has an agenda. And it's not because they have a malicious agenda. It's because they're trained in a certain way. They see the world in a certain way. They have a certain degree of realization and understanding. And to pick one word, to pick a word that really should be a phrase, which makes for a very long text, is a very difficult thing to do. So bless all the translators' hearts. It's actually good to have a number of translations so you can bring out the meaning. And then, of course, we have commentaries. So let me read through this first. 1, the preliminaries, which are the basis for Dharma practice. First, train in the preliminaries. 2, the main practice, which is training in bodhicitta. And then first is absolute bodhicitta. Then the number 2, regard all dharmas as dreams. Examine the nature of unborn awareness. Self-liberate even the antidote. Rest in the nature of alaya, the essence. Rest the mind in its natural state. In post-meditation, be like a magician, or as one commentator said, be like a child of illusion. Then the next section is relative bodhicitta. Sending and taking should be practiced alternately. These should ride on the breath. So this is the practice of Tonglen. Actually, many of you in the room have had these teachings already. Isn't that correct? Yes. Yeah? Good. Okay. Next one is 3 objects, 3 poisons, 3 roots of virtue. In all activities, train with slogans, actions of words. Begin the sequence of sending and taking with yourself. Next one, section 3, transformation of bad circumstances into the way of enlightenment. I like to also call this food, how to take all circumstances as food for liberation. When the world is filled with evil or very serious dissatisfaction, transform all mishaps into the path of bodhi, or the path of awakening. Drive all blames into one. Be grateful to everyone and everything. Seeing confusion, that is, I've put in brackets here, what it really means is seeing phenomenal experience, all experience, as the 4 kayas, the 4 Buddha kayas, is unsurpassable shunyata protection. And you see there's footnotes for a lot of these, or endnotes, so they require a lot of explanation. 4 practices are the best of methods. Whatever you meet unexpectedly, join with meditation. And I put another translation here, work with whatever you encounter immediately. Section 4, showing the utilization of practice in one's whole life. Practice the 5 strengths, the 5 powers, the condensed heart instructions. Number 18, the Mahayana instruction for ejection of consciousness, or POA, at death is the 5 strengths, powers. How you conduct yourself is important. Section 5, evaluation of mind training. Number 19, all Dharma agrees at one point. And I've also put in here, all Dharmas espouse the same subject. Of the two witnesses, hold the principal one. Sometimes they say is the two eyes. The two eyes find the one that is the principal eye. We'll get to that. Some of these are a bit of a pithy mystery, but they're all very clear. This is a pith text. Number 21, always maintain only a joyful mind. 22, if you can practice even when distracted, you are well trained. Section 6, disciplines of mind training. 23, always abide by the 3 basic principles. 24, change your attitude, but remain natural. 25, don't talk about injured limbs. Don't talk about people with afflictions. 2 hours of talking about everybody's health problems around the table. Gets very common as the age goes up. That becomes the topic of conversation, but also other meanings too. Don't ponder others. Don't ponder the affairs of others. Work with greatest defilements first. Abandon any hope of fruition results. Abandon poisonous food. Don't be so predictable. Have a good nature. Don't malign others. And don't get enraged. Don't wait in ambush. Don't take revenge. Don't bring things to a painful point. Don't attack others' vulnerable points. Don't transfer the ox load to the cow or a horse's load onto a pony. That is, don't bring about inappropriateness of loading people with too much. That's what it means. Don't try to be the fastest or aim to win or seek attention, fame, and scheming. And I've added in here, don't try to be the slowest either. This is very common today. Okay, well, I'll hopefully. I mean, this is enough. This is a lot for a whole weekend. So, I have many commentaries in here. "36. Don't act with a twist. In other words, don't covet praise. Don't make gods into demons. That is, don't try to gain in pride and arrogance while practicing Dharma. 38. Don't seek others' pain as the limbs of your own happiness. Section 7, Guidelines of Mind Training. All activities should be done with one intention. Correct all wrongs with one intention. 41, there's 2 activities, one at the beginning and one at the end. 42, whichever of the 2, good or bad, occurs, be patient. 43, observe these 2 even at the risk of your life. Train in the 3 difficulties. Take on the 3 principal causes. Pay heed that the 3 never wane, do not diminish. Keep the 3 inseparable, 3 non-separations. 48, train without bias in all areas. It's crucial to do this pervasively and wholeheartedly. 49, always meditate on whatever provokes resentment. Always meditate on difficult points. So instead of always looking for the easy way out, the liberation is found in the most difficult places. But don't be a masochist. That's my own commentary. 50, don't be swayed by external circumstances. This time, practice the main points, the main practice. 52, don't misinterpret, avoid misunderstandings. 53, don't vacillate. 54, train wholeheartedly with courage. 55, liberate yourself by examining and analyzing, investigating. 56, don't wallow in self-pity. Don't expect indebtedness. 57, don't be jealous and don't be impulsive. 58, don't be frivolous and don't be fickle. And 59, the last one, don't expect applause or publicity. So that's it. It's a very pithy text. and it takes quite a long time to unpack it and to read the commentaries and to understand it. So if one spends time practicing it, you want to bring it all together until it's natural. That's the purpose. Yeah. Not to be always carrying this around. And actually you might have to do that for a while. But if you keep reading and you keep studying and keep practicing, you'll see the whole purpose is to bring the 59 into one natural continuum. That's it, just natural. Yeah. And whatever you do, doesn't matter. And when you look at it, the way of testing is you go, that's true, there's less of that, there's more of that, and it must be natural. So now I'll give a reading of how to have a Tonglen meditation session, the giving and receiving. And what I've done here is I've extracted, because I was asked to do this, but extracted out of the Great Path Awakening, Tonglen, a commentary by Jamin Control, translated by Ken MacLeod many years ago. I was asked to actually extract from that the method that you would use to have a complete Tonglen section. So I've given that out. I've given out this before. I think this is back from 2013 or 2010. And this is the latest, I haven't changed it, but latest rendition of it. And what I've done is I've tailored this to those that are practicing the Drikung Yangzab practices. And that's how it's done. So whatever lineage you practice, your preliminaries, you just it's like plug and play. You plug this in, and then it works. So let's go through this, how we do that. First of all, generating bodhicitta, and we've already done that together. And so whatever lineage you practice in the preliminaries, you would take your bodhicitta prayer out of there and plug it in. And the next one, taking refuge. The order is a little bit different, but that's not unusual. It's a little bit different. Take refuge. We've already done that this morning. And then the 4 common foundations. So what I did here is, instead of following this or that particular translation of the 4 common foundation, which really isn't the right translation. The reason it's called the 4 foundations is the real translation is long. It's long. It's the 4 thoughts that turn the mind away from samsara. That's actually what this is. So when it says the 4 common foundations, people go, oh, these are kind of the 4 things I whip through. I get through them really quickly. It's kind of like the foundation. Yeah, right. Actually, these are really essential practices, and it was traditional. We don't do that so much anymore. It's just partly time. But it was very traditional that when you went to a teacher and you said, could you please teach me the Dharma? Could you please start me off in the Dharma? They would send you away for 3, 6 months, or a year practicing that. Because if you don't have that, the chances are you'll never really gain accomplishment in Dharma. The reason being is you'll always be looking for something, a quick fix out of samsara. So there are stories of great yogins crying over this because it's so high. So let's read this. This is from the Drikung Yangzab Preliminary Practices, the translation from Mike Dickman. It's an excellent translation. As this excellent body of mind with leisure and endowments will be difficult to obtain repeatedly in the future, right now, I'll accomplish the state of the unsurpassed Samantabhadra. That is, I'll accomplish the non-state. Actually, I prefer the non-state of complete, total liberation to meaningfully benefit others. And the reason for this, which is why we strive for complete liberation and not 5%. Some people say, well, I'd like 5% liberation. Is the greater the realization of emptiness and compassion as inseparable unity, the greater the ability to liberate beings. This is the key. So If you strive for 5%, I don't think anybody in the room is saying, I'd like 5%, but some people say to me, I just want a little bit. If you wish for a little bit, you usually get far less. But if you actually reach for very, very, very high attainment, if you were to get 10% in this lifetime, let's just make this approximate. The first bodhisattva stage. That's really an incredible achievement. So you shouldn't be wishing for the first bodhisattva stage. You should be wishing for total liberation, because actually it's a pretty darn good accomplishment to even reach the first or second or third bodhisattva stages. Do you see? Okay. So to really meaningfully benefit others, the greater the realization, the greater the skill and means, the greater the training, and really the understanding of emptiness, that means you can really liberate beings out of their suffering. Next, also, it's not certain when the hateful enemy of this present precious body, the Mara of death, will arrive. I and other beings are impermanent. Is this correct? You have no idea when you will pass away. And I think you also know that some of you in the room are suffering from afflictions that at any time can take you away. You can be very happily going along in life, right? At any age. And suddenly someone tells you, or you go to the doctor, or you find out that you've only got a short time left, or have no idea when. Since there's no opportunity for happiness, now this means there's no opportunity for complete, transcendent happiness wherever one is born in samsara, that is the wandering existences. And since a complete happy existence was never seen in samsara, we have to add these words, I will enter the path of nirvana. In other words, in this world of chasing after happy moments, which is how often?
All the time.
About 10 times per second. We're all doing, just even in the room, adjusting your body, adjusting your focus, just looking for the next comfortable, happy moment. Will bring you to all kinds of places, spaces, and states that are both relatively happy, which fall apart, and relatively sad, that fall apart, and in the middle that fall apart. So this isn't going to be the way out. The way out is the unborn, transcendent nature of the way this actually is. So that's what that refers to. In order for this body with leisure and wealth to possess meaning, I'll abandon the 3 non-virtuous poisons afflictions, that is greed, hatred, delusion, develop diligence in virtuous actions, and protect the vows and commitments of the 3 doors of body, speech, and mind. So even those in the room, I don't think we have many, maybe at all, but yes, a few, but those in the room who have very little wealth, relative to other billions of beings, have extraordinary wealth. And even in this society, if you were to be on welfare, you have extraordinary wealth, even perhaps beyond some nobility in previous centuries. It's quite fantastic. So what are you going to do with it? That's the question. What are we going to do with it? That's really, what are we going to actually do with it? So that means when it says possess meaning, profound meaning. This, as I'm seeing, is really devastating a lot of people today. This is what's killing a lot of people, is they're chasing after things of comfort without a profound meaning, without a really heartfelt, profound life purpose. It might be good, it might be very excellent, but actually it's not going to sustain a life when one hits the brick wall or difficulties. I will abandon the 3 non-virtuous poisons afflictions. This means that which actually causes the wandering, the greed, hatred, and delusion. And we can have the 5 as well, greed, hatred, delusion, pride, and jealousy. Develop diligence in virtuous actions. Virtuous actions, as we'll see in the next 3 talks, is really fundamental. I use this example a lot, but because we do a lot of building various places, I think you're all familiar with this. If you build a bad foundation, you're going to suffer the repercussions of that later when you try to put the roof on or do gyprock or put the bathtub in and you can't get the bathtub in or the kitchen fixtures in because nothing's straight. And you find the building cracks up within a year, that kind of thing. So too in the spiritual life, if you're going to craft things for later, you actually have to have an excellent foundation. Everything rests on that. And virtue and ethical conduct is it. And people keep asking me, why? Why is my meditation so shaky? Why is it that my concentration and my calm and, is so shaky? It's all to do with sila. It's all to do with a virtue and ethics. When that is really clean, the mind is extremely stable. And it says, protect the vows and commitments of the 3 doors. So I think probably everybody in this room has taken refuge, taken the 5 precepts, taken tantric precepts or monastic precepts. That's what that means. It means, and the bodhisattva vow, it means always protect them of the 3 doors of body, speech, and mind. So we reflect on that. We reflect on the 4 common foundations. We don't just read through them and go, that was great, got that over with. But this understanding is what turns one to realize Dharma. This is really it. Next is Guru Yoga. And the text of Jamon Control in the commentary says, your root guru sits on a lotus moon seat above your head. His body is radiant and his face is happy and smiling as regards all beings with non-referential compassion. In him, all the root and lineage teachers are present. With intense respect and devotion, repeat the lineage prayer if you wish, and in particular the following prayer 100 or 1,000 times. So this Guru Yoga, we traditionally, unless we have a really clean, harmonious, excellent relationship, working relationship with our principal teacher, our root guru, it's generally not advised to visualize them in their ordinary clothing state. It's usually you visualize them as Guru Rinpoche or as Chenrezig or as a Yidam, because that's actually what you're trying to see. That's what you're trying to realize. Yeah, not whether they're wearing a Guatemalan shirt, whether their t-shirt is from here or there, what color it is, whether they're have bags under their eyes that day or not, what they look like. We're actually trying to see the Buddha nature bodies through that being, so we can realize that in ourselves and other beings. So it's very important, be very careful about visualizing your root teacher as they generally look to you like a photographic snapshot of that day. So you know that if you take a photograph of a teacher and you're a good photographer, you have 40 or 50 pictures, correct? There's only one that you may pick. All the rest, they're squinting, they're frowning, they're looking happy, the smile's half up, half down, you see? So which one are you going to pick to put up above your head? It's really better to put an idealized, completely liberated form above your head to represent all root gurus, all awakened beings. So that's why you put the entire refuge tree really above your head. So repeating this prayer 100, 1,000 times, this depends on how much time you have. If you have an hour, or you have 2 hours or 3 hours, and taking it out of the commentary, I pray for your blessing, my guru, great and completely worthy spiritual friend. I pray that you will cause love, compassion, and bodhicitta to arise in my mind. So for many Westerners, and maybe Easterners today, for many Westerners, this will be difficult because we always have to remember the culture you're living in. The culture we're living in is I can do this myself. I don't need a parent. Remember, I'm old enough. I don't need a parent now sitting above my head telling me, I'm going to receive blessings and so on. But actually, we still do that all the time. So remember that as an adult, we're always still asking permission. We're always getting permission from somewhere, even if we dream it up and think it's ourselves. When someone says to me, I created this, you didn't create it. There's no such thing. It's born of cause and conditions by many, many beings that we rely on. And not only do we rely on great spiritual mentors, we wouldn't be here today with all these incredible spiritual mentors. That's an incredible blessing. We just wouldn't be sitting here at all. So to recognize when we say pray for blessings, it's really something you have to come to, which is we always do this. No matter what we do, we're asking for blessings, permission. If we go to university and we've paid now, we're going to pay $60,000, $100,000, $120,000, I don't know what it is, dollars. We're really hoping, right? Without ever doing it, we're sitting in classes hoping, are you going to give me are you going to guide me so that my career path and so on is going to be good? So we're always doing this. We're asking for good outcomes, correct? Mm-hmm. Your doctor, your naturopath, your chiropractor, right? Your gardening center, always asking for it. So we do the same thing. And the reason being, and we're going to come to that in the next 3 classes, aspiration is absolutely essential. You have to learn the art of aspiration. If you don't ask for it, you don't get it. So let me put it really bluntly. If you put your guru above your head and you don't ask for anything, it's probably going to sit there for a very long time. It used to be that when you asked for teachings, you actually formally had to ask for teachings. Do 3 prostrations, go before your teacher, and strongly request the following translations. And then they would consider whether the question, the sincerity is worthwhile. What you aspire for and how you aspire, the depth of your aspiration, is what you're going to receive. And it's done invisibly all the time, but some people, bless their hearts, are not very good at it. Their wish is very low level. So here we want to make a great wish that may all that spiritual accumulation of complete awakeness flood and descend into my being and become inseparable with me. So I pray for your blessing, my guru, great, completely worthy spiritual friend. I pray that you will cause love, compassion, and bodhicitta as relative and ultimate, in this case it means ultimate nature of emptiness, compassion, to arise in my mind. That means liberation. You're asking for liberation. Then imagine that your guru descends through the aperture of Brahma, through the central channel at the crown, and sits, resides, dwells in your heart center, in a pavilion of light, like an open shell, like in a beautiful open shell of light. Yeah? Okay. So that's the inseparability. And then the next stage of the practice is you count the breath to 21 times. A beautiful practice taught in many different traditions. You don't just count, you feel the breath. Counting the breath and not involving a sensory activity is just half it. You really want to feel the breath, and you want to feel the breath from the base of the belly right through the tip of the nostril. And even better, which would be the end of the first tetrad of the 4 foundations of mindfulness, the 4 foundations of recollectedness, is you feel a breath permeating through you, sensation from the tips of your toes to your head, to your fingertips, and that's really what you want to have. You want to be sitting in a place of utter ease, utter comfort, very, very beautifully unified focus, and that's the place to really begin. And the next section is Vipassana with support. Regard all phenomena, experience inner and outer, as dreamlight. So you see they're reproducing the first part of the mind train, Lojong. But this is the actual practice of it. Inner and outer as dream-like. How do you do that? So you have to consider, is this experience and your daily experience while you're practicing fundamentally any different than dreams at night? You have to really reflect on that. You have to analyze it. You have to look at it. And this is essential. So this level of contemplating emptiness is still conceptual. It has a conceptual bent, which you're analyzing to see if this is anything other than dream-like, illusory-like. Okay, so that's the next. And then vipassana, or penetrative vipassana, or special vipassana, without any support. Examine the nature of unborn awareness. So I think all of you, from what I can see here in the room, and those residing in Roslyn, hello there, have received quite a few teachings on Mahamudra Dzogchen. This is the nature of awareness as it is, as such. This is the continuum of awareness that doesn't get born, it doesn't die. It's there when you sleep. It's there when you fall asleep. It's there when you're distracted. It doesn't rely on you. This is what we're searching for. This is the ultimate bodhicitta. Then it says, even the remedy, the antidote, is free to subside naturally, self-liberate. So when we are experiencing phenomena as dreamlike, we're using an antidote. So a lot of the teaching are antidotes. Here they're saying, let go of the antidote. You don't need an antidote if you've recognized that awareness is unborn. There's no antidote other than the unborn. It's like trying to fix up the universe when it's already fixed. To put it as clear as that, we go around trying to fix up the way things are when in fact they're already perfectly fine. So we actually have to let go. And actually even letting go is still an antidote. We actually have to see the nature of unborn awareness to even not have an antidote. So therefore, if we do that, we will discover what's called self-liberation of all phenomena. And then the next part is rest in the nature of all. Now it's resting in that realization. The basis of everything, rest the mind in the natural state. When we say the word state, that's because we really don't have an English equivalent. We really should say rest in the non-state. But translators keep using the word state, which is conditioned. Rest in the mind that has no condition. The next one, relative bodhicitta. Love and compassion to someone close, for instance, one's mother, through to those who dislike you and those who you dislike. Then love and compassion to all sentient beings. This is the general order. It's not the general order if you have difficulties concerning your mother, because then you're all conflicted about your mother. So if you have a beautiful feeling for your mother, great, that's where you start. That beautiful feeling for thankfulness and gratitude and support of mothering beings. And if you don't, then you have to find someone in your life, but not usually your partner or your spouse, but someone in your life who's been a great mentor, who has really provided you with sustenance, and you can feel the love and compassion as a real profound feeling. And then you spread that to those you dislike and those who you dislike. So your enemies, people that you don't like, can be able to do it exactly the same. And then love and compassion to all sentient beings. That's ants, worms, wood pigeons, doves, parrots, trees, amoebas, lichen, fungi, so on. Okay. Next one, train and taking and sending alternately. Put them on the breath. So let me give a bit of commentary on this. The way this is done is let's start with the most uncomplicated way. When one is practicing, we have the figure of our root teacher, our root guru, in the heart center, in a pavilion of light. We should not practice this practice unless we have the clear view and understanding of what's gone before. No formations can damage us. It's all shunyata, it's all empty. If we think that someone's illness and mental states can actually damage us, when we breathe in the suffering states of beings, we're going to feel altered, damaged, and so on. But if you have the view that actually there's no antidote needed, it's already self-liberated, then you're untouched. You don't have to do a fiddle. So when you breathe in black smoke. You breathe in black tar. But generally, the texts say black smoke. So if someone's doing something that's untoward, or if you see the suffering of beings, even someone who's going, this is really great, it's all happy, and you go, right, great, more suffering. It is. It's a temporary state, be gone in a minute, be gone in an hour, be gone in a half an hour. Like classically, like in retreats where people come and go, wow, am I in a good state? And I go, right, let's wait till tomorrow. Wow, I'm blissed out. I feel so good. I think I'm enlightened. Let's check on it tomorrow. See, in the afternoon, maybe an hour from now. Let's see how you're doing. So this isn't the great bliss. This is the temporary states of happiness and bliss. Looking for those. So any kind of suffering, conflicted, wandering state, you breathe that in as black smoke, and you breathe it into this radiant figure, enlightened figure, in your heart center. You give it all the teachers, not right? Let them handle it. Okay. So it dissolves away into this figure, into this pavilion of light in your heart. Why? Because it was never conflicted in the first place. That's what this teaching is. So you practice a relative method of bodhicitta to come to the realization that the smoke was never unpure in the first place. Okay? Then you breathe, when on the out breath, you breathe out white light, and you fill that person or those beings, those people on a committee, those people in a meeting, maybe you're sitting in a meeting, those people those lovely people maybe who's sitting in a seat of government somewhere, and you breathe out white light, pristine, beautiful white light coming out of the heart center, from the guru's body, speech, and mind, and you infuse that into those beings. That's how it's done. Taking it in, breathing out, taking it in, breathing out. So you take in all that black smoke, it gets purified into the central channel, it gets purified into the figure, and you feel this beautiful feeling of white light going out. And of course you can do that with all sentient beings, but you can also do that with individuals specifically. Okay. Yeah.
Is there a particular form you visualize your guru in?
I've already mentioned that. The form that got brought down from the crown of your head.
Oh, I see.
So typically, for instance, if we're practicing the Yangzab, which is a Dzogchen, Nyingma Dzogchen lineage within the Drikung Kagyu, then the figure that's above her head is Guru Rinpoche. And we're already Vajrasattva. So we've already transformed. So we bring Guru Rinpoche. So you should see Guru Rinpoche in your heart. If you're practicing Chenrezi and Chenrezi is above your crown, then you see Chenrezi. But all those figures are your root guru. Your root guru is equivalent to the guru, all the gurus, It's equivalent to all of the Adams. Chenrezi, Hey Vajra, Demcha, I'm just looking around the room, white Tara, green Tara, right? Whatever, Vajragini. And it's equivalent to all the Dakinis. So it's inseparable. So you work with what you're really familiar with. Okay, that's really important. Yeah.
You mentioned with the breath, the in-breath, that has to be sensory experience as well.
Has to which?
Your senses are involved.
Oh, absolutely, yeah.
So with this, it's not just a concept or you've got the guru, you visualize the guru. There has to be, when you take in the suffering of a being, there has to be senses involved too.
Right? Marvelous question. Okay, folks, all of your sensory experience is conceptual.
Yes.
Don't separate it. If you touch the pipe behind you there, Saskia, are you touching a pipe or are you touching a concept? Try it. So this is the difficulty you have. So in the path of liberation, most of you today, because you're studying with me, are coming to fairly high teachings. Many people really have a hard time with this. And one of the problems is that they can't separate concept from sensory activity. So I'm not getting on your case, but this is very important. Where we normally start is we have to regain our sensory faculties. They're really deadened.
Yeah.
Our sense of touch, our sense of smell, our visual, our auditory, and so on, until they're radiant. And they get apparently purified. And then we say the person's grounded, they're in touch with their body, and so on. Forgetting or never knowing that all that body experience is in fact utterly conceptual. So many people are running away from concepts into their body, not realizing their body is totally illusory and utterly a concept and made up in their mind. But you have to start there. Most people can't make that jump. You make that jump, you're in trouble. So yes, Saskia, you're absolutely correct, except they're still, even if they have heightened sensory awareness, they're still absolutely conceptual and actually thinking. Because it's totally illusory.
I was thinking you can make this whole practice a concept, oh, that person's suffering, but taking it in, you feel.
Yes, you have to feel, but you have to also be careful that you're not overlaying with your own feelings. So if you come to this practice and you have a high level of afflictive states, which are, there's a term for it now, not hyper empathetic disorder, which I've met people. So in other words, everything they feel is magnified as a real thing. So if you tell them, oh, I've got a cold, you'll realize that they'll have a cold in 10 minutes. No, because it will just come on. Or if you say, oh, I'm having all kinds of difficulties financially or in my relationship, they will feel every single thing because they're mirroring everything in their body, thinking it's real. It's not real at all. It's all made up. That's not to be negative about people's afflictive states, but it's generated as an idea. When the idea changes, the physiology changes. So one has to be very, very careful how much you actually feel because you're making it up. So you have to have a certain level of empathy, but not hyper empathy. And you have to have a certain level, a really good level of understanding of suffering, but understand it's illusory. And that's where this can become difficult, because then you take on so-called real phenomena into your body and you're swallowing up the poisons of the universe and getting yourself extremely sick because you're thinking it's real. You have to come from the point of view of it's utterly illusory. So let me give you an example. You've raised a really good question. When you're in a dream and the shark is coming after you, Yes? You know, like in movie? Jaws? And it bites off a limb. When you wake up, what happens? You still have your limb, yes? Now we can talk about 100,000 different things that have happened in dreams, correct? Where you wake up and you realize that just never happened. But in the sensory world where where it feels more dense, even though it can feel exactly the same density in dreams, it feels like you're carrying the same thing. But when you simply change your mind, have you all had this experience 100,000 times, but maybe still not have utter confidence in it? When someone puts their hand on your head and you feel totally different, when someone shakes your hand, when you receive a hug, and within a quarter of a second, your physiology has changed. The thought is gone. Where was that thought? Dreamlike, utterly dreamlike. So I think you've all had this experience, I hope, where you've had a difficulty, yes? Have all of you had it? Are all of you human?
Yes.
You know that test you do when you're trying to buy something, it says, are you a robot? And they check if you can identify traffic lights and buses. You know, you get that, right? Okay, so I'm going to do the same thing with you. Have you all had an experience where you've been really agitated over something? Yes? Yesterday, the day before? Yeah? And then something changed. Your view changed. Something was said to you. You read something different. You read the fine print and went, oh, I can ignore all the rest. Whatever it was. And it all vanishes. And you turn away from it and go, but not remembering that 5 minutes ago, one was in an utter state of turmoil.
Yeah.
What changed?
The view.
Just the view. A view changes the physiology. So the view that you bring to this, the understanding you bring to this, is how effective this is. The degree of realization of emptiness and compassion, bodhicitta, is how you will unfold this practice. And if you think that suffering is ultimately real, and the states people have are ultimately real, you're going to get sick. You have to be coming from the point of view when you practice Tonglen, this is utterly illusory, it is mind created. Then you can really practice. Then you can really, really practice. So thank you for that. So you put them on the breath. Why? You're liberating what? That which is already liberated. It's a relative practice. It's a very high relative practice, and it's extremely effective for other people. You just sit in a meeting sometime, you know, it's good. Go back to work, right, Giselle? Go back to work and have meetings from night and day as an administrator, and it's great. You get to practice this night and day. You're having a meeting, and people are arguing and doing each other in or whatever it is, and you're, you know, just pretending you're an administrator, right, with your pen, and you're breathing in smoke. And you're breathing out white light. Yes, but you said and you're breathing in smoke, breathing out white light. It's wonderful, absolutely wonderful practice. And seeing them as bodhisattvas, seeing them as radiant yidams, right? And you may say, well, how come it didn't work during that meeting? Because sometimes it takes years. Have you noticed your life, our lives? It can take years for blessings to ripen. So you do that for quite some time, breathing in, breathing out, breathing in the dukkha of all sentient beings, and breathing out the liberation of all sentient beings, and then you make a dedication of merit dedication of merit and aspiration. And that says in this way of practicing, in post-meditation, practice like a magician. A child of illusion was a statement by a certain teacher in the United States, which is not a direct translation. It was certainly made sense back in the 1970s when they were teaching. The actual word is magician. And I think if you're a child of illusion, You don't want to be a child. You want to be the magician. I take a little bit of exception to that. I can understand where that's coming from, but I take some exception to that. The magician is different. And the reason being is the magician is still having great joy in the magic trick. It understands how the magic trick is done. That's what we want to get to, not the child that doesn't understand the magic trick. So we don't want to just go around and say it's all a dream. That's not realization. You have to know how the dream is actually created. Otherwise, you're not free. So the word magician is exactly correct. Magician knows how the trick is done, but still has joy in all this amazing activity and keeps seeing the trick as pretty amazing. Going, that was pretty good, right? And the others are going, but how did you do that? We don't want to be going, how do you do it? We want to know exactly how it's done. We want to know how dreams actually arise and how we actually liberate dreams. That's the actual practice.
Sometimes knowing it's spontaneous.
Can knowing be spontaneous?
That skill of how to unfold the parts to bring the illusion anticipated together is done like as you talk. You say it can be spontaneous and you go, wow.
Spontaneous because you've trained in it. A musician who is trained really well appears to be absolutely spontaneous. A singer can appear to be absolutely spontaneous. One who is really well trained gets to a point where they don't have to think about what they're doing. It appears to be utterly spontaneous. Is it? No. But it feels and appears to be effortless. Yes. So your answer is yes, but it still has to rest on training, or it's a one-off. So you go, that was pretty cool. That was spontaneous. And as my lovely root teacher, Namgyal Rinpoche, would sometimes say to someone who would come to them with a glorious meditation experience, like my first meditation interview at the age of 18 or 19, pretty good, Mark, but can you do it anytime? Then we're talking. That was my first interview. He got it over with, like right there. It kind of just cut right through all the crap. Which is nice that you've had an experience, pretty good, but I thought, oh, that was a doozy, you know?
Yeah.
But he wanted it anytime, any place, spontaneously, which is another way of saying, so now go train in it until it's natural. It's natural. It's natural. So you can say, well, one day the Yidam infused in me and I felt like the Yidam, completely Vajragini or completely Chenrezi.
Yeah.
Congratulations. Can you do it anytime, any place, spontaneously, effortlessly, natural? That is actually Dharma. The other is having experience. So you have to train. You have to train. And as I say in public classes, because this isn't really a public class, but in public classes, I can empty out 50% of the room on the first night by just saying the word train. And they all go away because they don't want to train in anything. They just want to have the experience. Can you give me the experience really quickly? Because I don't want to train anymore. That's what I do in school. I do that in university and so on. But isn't this something that just happens as a mystical experience? No, all mystical experiences happen because of causes and conditions. They just happen quickly usually. So therefore we call them spontaneous, forgetting how much work went in to the arising of that spontaneous. Have you ever seen Yo-Yo Ma on a stage playing cello? Mm-hmm. It looks effortless and spontaneous. Did he just suddenly come upon that? No. Okay, so same thing. So as Jitsen Sumgon said in the text of the Gompa, of the Gonshig, the founder of the Drikung Kagyu tradition, the path is gradual. It's not sudden. It only appears suddenly because the work has been done somewhere. That's why we do retreats. That's why we infuse ourselves in retreats. So actually we get these spontaneous experiences, but we actually know where they come from. All right. Let's take a 10-minute break. It depends on how many there are here, but let's take a 10, 15-minute break. We'll get together again, and I'll give some commentary on this. Yes?
So with the feeling in the body, is that more like a feedback loop without the concept and the labels and the stories attached to it?
Yes, you want to get that. So really I should come back to this, but it's very profound. And maybe what I'll do is I'll read something from Yogi Shabkar about this. Beautiful. You're alleviating suffering, but where you really want to come to is ultimate bodhicitta, where you're alleviating suffering from a view of there is freedom in the suffering. That is, even when you're sick, your mind is unborn freedom. Even when you're happy, your mind is unborn freedom. You want to come to that so you can help people see that their afflictions have no basis. That's real bodhicitta. The other is a skill and means of removing partial view, removing view stories, which many of you are skilled in. I'm not so skilled in it. But removing stories around the affliction to free up some space. You see that? So that's relative bodhicitta. What was the cause of your broken leg? Fell down the stairs. Why? Oh, I forgot to switch the light on. Something as simple as that. That's a relieving of relative. But actually, what's the root cause of falling down the stairs by not putting the light on? Ignorance, dullness. Yeah? Or you could be thinking about, you might be mad at something and you don't put the light on. So that's the three poisonous afflictions. So helping someone in that is relative bodhicitta. You're trying to take the cause away. Maybe someone's eating a food that they shouldn't be eating, it's agitating them. Maybe someone is living in an environment that's highly agitating or causing conflict. Therefore, you help remove that. Maybe you're living in a university dorm or something like that, and it's making you sick. So you might suggest the person, if you left the university dorm and you moved somewhere else, you'd feel a lot better. Oh, wow. Okay. So that's really important. And that's the skill and means of helping, liberating at a relative level. But it doesn't actually solve the problem. And the fundamental problem is you need to know the unborn nature of awareness to have a reference point of freedom that can carry you through everything. Because all you'll be doing is patching up life. You'll move this bowl over here and you go, oh, that feels better. Then you'll move this bowl over here and that will feel better. And you'll move this over here and that will feel better. So until you do that, you're simply moving pieces around a chessboard, which can be absolutely pristine, lovely love and compassion, but doesn't free a being. Yeah, that's the point here. You have to do both. So you have to learn the skill of doing both. There's times when it's excellent to go for a massage, but don't feel the massage is going to liberate your mind. Enlightened beings too, they also get massages, but they know it is not a path of liberation. It's a path of relieving of physical symptoms that should be relieved. So as Namgyal Rinpoche sometimes said to certain people in retreat, when they come and say, I've got a massive headache, he'd say, well, why haven't you taken an aspirin? I can do that? Oh, yes, you can do that.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, come on. They're trying to go, oh, maybe an easier way is take an aspirin. It might actually have nothing to do, it might just happen to be the change in weather. Let's take a 10-minute break and come back and you can ask questions. And so take a look at the text in the 10 minutes. Don't get chatty and go off and things, but take a look at the text and see if there's questions specifically you'd like to ask me, and I'll address those in the second half of this morning. Okay?